Hello, everyone. Hello, University of Ottawa students, and welcome to the University of Ottawa Counseling Services webinar on managing anxiety and stress. My name is Severio Mararki Jr., and I'm a mental health and wellness counselor at Counseling Services, and I hope you find this webinar to be engaging and of help as well. The aim of this webinar. So it's to help you better understand anxiety and stress, to help you recognize the physiological and psychological symptoms of anxiety, to help you develop an awareness of your anxiety and stress, and to provide you with techniques to help reduce anxiety and stress. So to begin, we would like to emphasize that the presentation, it's not intended to eliminate anxiety, but rather to help you learn how to reduce and to better manage. Anxiety, it's a part of life. And having certain levels of anxiety allows us to perform at our best. Feeling anxiety reminds us that what we are experiencing is important to us. Otherwise, we would have no emotional reaction. And positive anxiety, yes, positive anxiety exists, can manifest in feelings of anticipation, motivation, and excitement. Therefore, we can also experience symptoms of anxiety in joyous moments. And this is a fact that we tend to forget. So what is anxiety? So it is a response to a perceived danger or threat. Now, we want to underline this word perceived. Our body has a survival response, which is triggered by danger. And when we were cave men and women, this was very helpful. We would need this mental and physical response in order to survive an attack. However, nowadays, most of our triggers are from our thoughts and feelings we have based on, again, the perceived danger. Example, failing a class. So one student can be enrolled in a class and they'll assume they will fail, while another student enrolled in the same class may not have the same assumption. Therefore, it is the perception that we attribute to this class, in this instance, that can trigger the symptoms of anxiety. A threat may be physical, but it can also be based on thoughts and feelings. And it happens when we feel that the strength of the threat outweighs the ability to cope. So for instance, if we asked you to tie your shoes, this probably wouldn't trigger any anxiety. However, if we told you that your professor just called and there's a pop-up quiz in 10 minutes, this possibly could cause anxiety. So therefore, it's a natural human response. And it invokes the fight or flight response, which we'll explore in the next slide. So what is the fight or flight response? So our body has two main systems, two main nervous systems. There's the parasympathetic nervous system, also known as rest and relaxation. And then there's the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight. So when we experience symptoms of anxiety, the sympathetic nervous system is activated. And this produces many physical changes in our body, such as dilated pupils, dry mouth, faster heart rate, a rush of adrenaline, etc. Now, the tricky thing is that it takes a second for the sympathetic nervous system to be activated. And to reactivate the parasympathetic nervous system when we are experiencing symptoms of anxiety, it may take a little longer. However, with the tools that we will highlight today, when put into practice often, will help you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and relaxation nervous system, more quickly when we are experiencing symptoms of anxiety. Now, here are some possible symptoms of anxiety that we will explore. There are both physiological and psychological. So for the physiological, there can be shortness of breath, nausea or upset stomach, heart palpitations, trembling or shaking, sweating, dizziness, hot flashes or chills, feelings of detachment, headaches, trouble sleeping, and restlessness. Now, the thing to remember is that these symptoms are uncomfortable, no question, but they're not life-threatening. So for instance, we also have these feelings when we do not have anxiety. So as an example, if we do 30 jumping jacks, our hearts will race. If we breathe through a straw for a minute, we'll have shortness of breath. If we have espresso in the evening, we may have trouble sleeping. So the idea is when we experience these symptoms, we can tell ourselves, okay, this is uncomfortable, but it's not life-threatening, as I also experience these symptoms when I do not have anxiety. So that notion, that idea may provide some relief. Then some psychological symptoms may include memory block, impaired concentration, irritability, frustration, confusion, fear, helplessness, and paralysis. And these are all common symptoms of anxiety. As related to academia, anxiety may manifest in the following ways. So learning doesn't transfer, attention narrows on anxiety, energy is wasted, memory recall is affected, fear and paralysis take over, and concentration is impaired. So as a student, you may have experienced some or all of these symptoms, which are all common symptoms of anxiety. Now, we will explore anxiety and performance and how there's a fine line. We actually need levels of anxiety in order for us to perform at our best. If we feel little to no anxiety, our performance will actually be very low. So we need some anxiety or stress in order for us to get motivated and excited. An optimal level of performance actually happens at a medium level of anxiety and or stress. But when anxiety is too intense, our performance will suffer. So the aim is to get back to that optimal level when we are experiencing high, less bearable levels of anxiety. And in the tools that we will explore later, they will help us put this into practice to help us get back to that optimal level. What is stress? So what is stress? Stress is defined as a series of reactions that affect our body, emotions and feelings, behaviors and thoughts. And these reactions relate to threats, both real or perceived. So there is a fine line between stress and anxiety. Both are emotional responses, but stress is typically caused by an external trigger. The trigger can be short-term, such as an assignment deadline, or a fight with a loved one, or long-term, such as poverty, discrimination, and chronic illness. Anxiety, on the other hand, is defined by persistent, excessive worries that don't go away even in the absence of the stressor. So anxiety leads to nearly identical set of symptoms as stress, such as insomnia, difficult concentrating, fatigue, muscle tension, and irritability. Now we will explore the common indicators of stress. So you may be thinking, stop, Severio, say no more. I know exactly how stress feels. You do not have to tell me. And if this is the case, hopefully exploring these symptoms will normalize the symptoms and be a reminder that these symptoms are universal. So there are physical signs. So increased heartbeat, clammy hands, trembling. Behavioral signs, stuttering, looking down or avoiding eye contact. Cognitive science, memory blanks, increased thinking activities, and emotional signs, being anxious or afraid of something. Why do we feel stressed? So in this slide, we'll discuss how we may feel stressed, and there are two main reasons. So one, we may perceive a situation as being difficult or dangerous, and the second, we do not feel that we have the resources or capacity to face the situation. So we may doubt our ability to solve the problem. Therefore, in short, this means that our interpretation, again, of the situation weighs a lot in the balance, as our perception of our ability to cope with it. And just being mindful of that, of our interpretation, of our perception, that we have a role that can help play out and that can help reduce those symptoms. And just being aware puts us at an advantage as we can begin challenging our thoughts as the first step to tackle the stress. Strategies to attenuate, to manage stress. So we often say in counseling that mental health and wellness, it is synonymous with balance in our life. And when we have balance, this can lower our symptoms of stress and anxiety. Now, in this part of the webinar, we will look at how we can apply strategies in different areas of our lives. The first, cognitive strategies. The second, behavioral strategies. And the third, emotion-oriented strategies that can help manage or reduce these levels of anxiety and stress. So here we look at cognitive strategies. So some examples: getting rest, sufficient sleep. Sometimes meeting our basic human needs, such as sleep, can reduce the levels of anxiety and stress. Second, managing your time. This is another simple tool that can help prevent feeling overwhelmed and, in turn, can help alleviate symptoms of distress. There is practicing setting realistic goals. So sometimes having a goal and breaking it up into smaller chunks can help us attain our goal and can help manage our levels of stress. There's also take concrete actions to get organized. So as an example, draft a to-do list, use a planner. For many, having a planner and mapping out tasks can not only alleviate some stress, but could bring about positive emotions such as reward and satisfaction. Confront your negative thoughts. So confront your self-critical conversations. Our thoughts are powerful, and confronting self-critical conversations involves taking a close look at our thoughts and maybe challenging them if we deem them as being too negative and self-critical. They may not serve us as much as we think. And by challenging them, it can help us think more rationally and can bring about more calm and peace in general. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is having a non-judgmental and receptive mindset and treating our thoughts and feelings like a passing cloud. It's not bypassing emotions, it is understanding them as a way forward. And in my view, this is something empowering, as this notion involves feeling emotions and saying, okay, hey, even when I'm having these uncomfortable emotions, they're not fun, but the sky is not falling and I am still standing. And there's something empowering with that notion. Now we explore behavior, action-oriented strategies. So the first, doing a self-care activity. When I think of self-care, what comes to mind is the airplane analogy, which we commonly use in counseling. So when an airplane encounters low air pressure, the first thing that occurs is that the oxygen masks come down. And the rule of thumb is that you have to place yours first before you can help someone else. And that is the idea with self-care. The more we have balance, the more we are intentional with how we spend our time and meet our needs, the more it would help us face life's challenges that we all face. physical activity, regular physical exercise. So physical activity also stimulates the release of dopamine and serotonin. So these brain chemicals play an important role and part in regulating your mood. So regular exercise helps balance your body's level of stress hormones, such as adrenaline. Next, we explore practicing relaxation techniques. And when we have symptoms of anxiety, there is not enough oxygen in our abdomen. And this sends messages to our vagus nerve, to our brain, that says, panic, panic, panic. But when we take a moment to breathe deeply, we're adding oxygen in our abdomen, and that sends other messages to our vagus nerve that says, you've survived 100% of your worst days. This too shall pass. And that helps us to be anchored and helps alleviate stress. Now, we would like to propose a relaxation technique that appears to resonate with students. You may have heard it. It is called square breathing. The idea is that you trace a square with a pen and paper, or if you'd like, you can use your index finger and trace an imaginary square on any surface, and each side of the square represents 4 seconds. And also, each side of the square represents a different facet of breathing. So the top of the square represents an inhale, the sides represent a holding of the breath, and the bottom represents an exhale. So put differently, with this exercise, you are tracing the square over and over. And as you do, you are breathing in for 4 seconds, holding your breath for 4, exhaling for 4 seconds, and again, holding your breath for 4 seconds. In this slide, we now explore emotion-oriented strategies that may help alleviate symptoms of anxiety and stress. So for instance, opening up to someone you trust as a way to not struggle alone may be a way to help manage and cope. Setting healthy boundaries, learning to say no. Now, learning to say no is not always easy, and feelings of guilt may ensue, but knowing that if I say no to someone, I am saying yes to myself. And we do not want to forget ourselves from that equation, which can be ultimately restorative. Learning to assert yourself in order to express one's needs is another way to take care of oneself. And that can help manage symptoms of anxiety and stress as we are moving toward having our needs met. Laughing, connecting with humor, a personal favorite, can help relieve tension and stress. Writing your thoughts and feelings in a journal, writing thoughts down, can help create a separation and distance from difficult emotions. And having a journal can also be very cathartic. Connecting with a support group, sharing a similar experience to not feel alone in your struggle is a healthy way to cope. And of course, to each their own, anything that is of help for you, that provides relief and sustenance, I want to validate, as it can be an emotional-oriented strategy for you, and to listen to what meets your needs when it comes to managing distress. Now, just an overview of the Managing Anxiety and Stress webinar, some key points. There is a fine line between stress and anxiety. Both are emotional responses, but stress is typically caused by an external trigger. Anxiety, on the other hand, is defined by persistent, excessive worries that don't go away even in the absence of a stressor. In this webinar, we looked at coping mechanisms that we can apply in 3 different areas of our lives to help manage or reduce symptoms of anxiety and stress. 1, cognitive strategies. The 2nd, behavioral strategies. And the 3rd, emotion-oriented strategies. To conclude, The following are other resources that may be of help at your time as a student at U Ottawa. U Ottawa community resources include virtual mental health and wellness website, International Students Office, U Ottawa Health Services, UOHS, academic accommodations, Human Rights Office, peer-to-peer services, Academic Writing Help Center, Student Union, Graduate Student Association, and many more. In addition, there are after-hour resources that could be of support. Good to Talk, which is a helpline specific to post-secondary students. Empower Me, another counseling service available to you. Mental Health Crisis Line, Family Services Ottawa, and TELAID. And there is also TAO, which stands for Therapy Assisted Online, which is a tool to explore symptoms of anxiety, depression, interpersonal skills, symptoms of stress and substance use. There are videos you can watch, questions you can answer to help understand yourself and manage symptoms. Lastly, if you are in danger to yourself, or if you know of anyone else who may be in danger, you can always contact 911 or visit the nearest emergency hospital. Thank you for watching the Managing Anxiety and Stress webinar. We hope you found it insightful and of help. Please remember, if you need support, do not hesitate to contact us. You can email us at counts@uottawa.ca, COUNS@uottawa.ca. And if you're ready to make an appointment, you can book online anytime by visiting our website. All of our contact information is on our website, and you can find us by searching counseling services on the U Ottawa Mental Health and Wellness website. If you are looking for more resources and self-help tools, please visit our website and click on Get Started. So thank you again. And again, we hope you found this webinar to be insightful and of help. Thank you.